then, here is the Marvel Legends X-Men Animated Series VHS box Mystique figure. Yet another Hasbro pre-order that I was told I was going to get in the new year that has arrived in October 2022. Please, Hasbro, you're making it very difficult for me to manage my budget around this stuff, but there we are. So, but very excited. The collection yet grows. If you've been following my channel, you'll know that I've been picking up all the animated series figures up till this point. I've had some ups and downs with it. I've had a few wobbles. I did say I was going to keep my Mystique pre-order in, and I did, as you can see. And if you watched the PulseCon Marvel Legends panel last weekend, you'll also know that there's only one more figure been announced, and then they're taking a break, and that's the Cyclops that they put up for pre-order over PulseCon. So, for what it's worth, I've gone in on Cyclops, so I might as well complete the set now. You know, I've cracked on. So Mystique has arrived. Very pleased to have another villain in the collection. I think I need more villainy in that collection. We've got the VHS box, which is obviously designed to look very retro and nostalgic, and it is indeed that. We've then got the Dan Wiesemeyer artwork on the front of the packaging. Dan's work's awesome. It obviously very clearly evokes the original aesthetic of the X-Men animated series, and this picture of Mystique is yet once again a lovely piece of work. The stuff he does on these boxes is brilliant, really. Very there's a lot of dynamic, a lot of motion, a lot of action being communicated. You know, they're not very bland or boring. There's always something, a bit of a story being told by the picture, and this one is no different. I get the feeling that Mystique is sneaking around in a sewer or a catacomb by candlelight, getting up to no good. And that works for me. I love that kind of, there's a villainous story being told, so well done, Dan. Otherwise, the box is as the previous ones have been. We've got the fun little touches, like the thumb tabs for pulling out the VHS, and the logos being made to look like retro production company logos on the sides of the videos. Then it continues the motif with the animated style Mystique head in the Marvel Comics box, the X-Men logos and stuff. The back cover's interesting. Bit of controversy over this if you've been watching around. So this is a digital render of the figure, the Mystique figure, and it was observed by some Marvel Legends fans that there is a double elbow here in the digital render, but not a double elbow on the photos of the figure that was shown. It was later confirmed by the Marvel Legends team over at Hasbro themselves that Mystique does not have a double elbow. So a bit of controversy, a bit disappointing, but there it is on the back of the box, the inaccurate picture. So it'll be interesting to see when I open up in a minute how close to that she truly is. We got a bit of blurb, you know, a bit of colour text there. The mutant shapeshifter, known only as Mystique, uses her powers to infiltrate and undermine the X-Men. And then that same blurb is available in several different languages. All the legal bollocks at the bottom there. And then the other side is the same, but just facing in the opposite direction. So let's get her opened up. I've already popped the tape on the side there. It's obviously windowless, plastic-free packaging here. You just pop the tape and then slide out this kind of cardboard frame from inside. There's a couple of other little bits in here. Oh, paperwork. I'll pop that one neatly. Won't throw that one over my shoulder like I normally do because I like to keep these ones, the VHS boxes. So we've got this extra bag of bits and goodies. Let's slide those out, see what we've got. Ooh. So we have a couple of interchangeable hands. There is the baby Nightcrawler. Lovely jubbly. We'll take a closer look at that, but that's an interesting accessory for sure. Then we've got this big kind of laser cannon thing. I like that. And then a Mystique style sort of laser pistol. And that look kind of very cartoon accurate on first impression. We'll take a closer look at those in the accessory section of the review. Then we've got the figure itself inside another one of these kind of paper baggies. Slide that out there. Oh, there's a bit of cardboard around the legs. And here we go. Here is the Mystique figure. So I'm going to go away now, get her posed up, take some photos, pop her on the display with my other X-Men animated series figures. Just get a better feel for the Mystique that I've just unboxed, and I'll return in a couple of days to share some review thoughts. So in real terms, I'm off right now, but for you guys, I'll be back in 3, 2, 1. And here she is. Here is the Marvel Legends X-Men Animated Series VHS line Mystique figure. I'm getting quite good at that now, aren't I? But here she is in the plastic. It's been a couple of days now since I did the unboxing section that you guys have just watched, and I've had her posed up on the shelf. She's been mingling with a few of my other X-villains. I've had my Mr. Sinister with her. my new Apocalypse video on the channel. Go take a look at that. And the mainline Pyro, I've been doing a little kind of brotherhood thing and sort of seeing how she sits with the cell shading, you know, mixing in with comic book and animated series and stuff. But I'll talk about that a bit more in a second. So I'm going to go into the kind of core main review now that I've done the unboxing. And if you're new around these parts, just to let you know, very simple structure to the reviews that I offer. I call it the MoDXtra 3 A's. The first A is aesthetic. Let's have a look at Mystique and talk about how she looks. Let's talk about the colour schemes, the detail, etc., etc. Just really get under the skin of that. Then the second A, we're going to talk about articulation. How does she feel? How good is she at posing? What's the, you know, the options and possibilities with the figure? And then the third A is the accessories and added value. Is there any extra stuff that's been chucked in to make it more worth your money? And with all that said and done, I should hopefully have given you folks a few thoughts that may help you if you're planning on picking one of these up for yourself. So let's not dilly-dally around, let's get into it and let's talk a little bit about Mystique's aesthetic. Right, okay then, let's get talking about Mystique's aesthetic, and I brought her a bit nearer to the camera so we can take a closer look at the finer details, the sculpting, the colour schemes, the paint applications, and so on and so forth. And I'm going to begin where I usually like to begin, which is with the head sculpt, which is a very important part of the action figure experience for me. If you're a regular around these parts, you'll know I talk a lot about wanting the facial expressions and the quality of the face sculpt to be telling a little bit of a story, giving me a bit of the character's narrative. And I'm going to call it out right up top. Yeah, this is definitely giving me a little bit of a story. It's certainly not the bland, expressionless thing that we've seen with a few Marvel Legends figures of late, so very pleased with that. It's got a kind of an evil, growly grimace thing going on. Yeah, all looking good. It's the detail, the facial features, the nose, the cheeks, the lips, the chin, the eyes, the forehead and the eyebrows. All that is good stuff, nice and detailed. The paint applications that are bringing that to life are also very neat and tidy. The lipstick, the teeth, the yellow glowing eyes, the eyebrows, the little hair feature, mini fascinator thing that she wears on the front, the little yellow skull piece there, all very neatly done, which I'm pleased about because, you know, I've definitely had some figures of late with some slapdash, rough around the edges kind of paint application things going on. That's all good. So yeah, really on board with that. I might have liked something, I don't know, I associate Mystique with something a little bit more smirky. Might have liked something with a bit more of a kind of evil, got the better of you smile going on, but that is what it is. I'd rather have an expression than no expression at all, even if it's not quite the expression I would have had on the wish list, but that's okay. The hair as well, the hair sculpt detail's good. It's in a solid colour, but like we've seen with the X-Men animated series line, there's no wash on that. Obviously intended to replicate the kind of solid body of colour that you get from the cartoon viewing experience, but there's a nice sculpt in it. It's got a good flow as it drapes across the top of her head and onto her shoulders there. So yeah, really pleased with that. So everything's going pretty good in the above the shoulder area for sure. Taking in the whole figure then, we can see that the colour schemes are pretty striking and interesting. We've obviously got the blue-skinned features that are a part of the character's story as a shapeshifter. This is well framed by the kind of white uniform that she wears, the gloves, the kind of body piece there, the drapey skirt thing, the white boots, which kind of breaks it up a bit, especially with the little splashes of colour like the red hair and the yellow features, the skull features on the uniform. So yeah, the colour schemes are good. They seem nice and balanced. The cell shading is, you know, all right. We've said this, and many have said this about the animated series VHS line. It's a bit random. You know, where's the light coming from there? It's like both insides of the gloves are cell shaded and both insides of the boots are cell shaded, but there's clearly a shadow line across this side of the body and underneath the chest there that's indicating there's a light from over here. So yeah, the cell shading is what it is. It's not as egregious as some of the others, and it's fairly subtle all told, really, so it's not bothering me all that much. There is a couple of bits that look a bit strange, like down here on the boot, it kind of blends in here, like where does her body end and the boot start? I'm not quite sure what's happening there with this weird kind of cutaway piece. or whether there's an actual blue section of boot, and then they've painted the blue in the same colour as a skin blue. I don't know, I'm not sure. I've not gone away and had a look at a screen cap from the cartoon series to know, but it just strikes me as a little bit odd, especially when it's kind of got booty aesthetic in the moulding in the sculpt there. So that implies that is an actual boot that she's put on. She's not shape-shifted into a boot. I don't know. Again, let me know in the comments down below. It's the same with the gloves here on the elbow. Look, I'm not quite sure what's going on there, but it's not getting in the way. You know, it's not affecting my enjoyment of the figure's aesthetic. Nice detail in the figure as well. You know, the muscular features on the arms and the legs are present. We've got some nice creases communicating the sort of drape of this skirty piece here on the front and on the back. So you've got your little crease lines and folds, which is all lovely. The skull motif on the belt is nicely sculpted and detailed and well painted. So that's all in the plus column as well. There's a backpack hole on her back there, but there's no backpack included with the figure, nor is there anything with a backpack peg to fit into that. So that stands out sometimes when I'm looking at the figure. I'm not a big fan of backpack holes on figures that don't come with backpacks, but I can understand the rationale if you're the type of collector who mixes and matches stuff from other figures. But yeah, that stands out a little bit. So overall, in terms of looks, in terms of aesthetic, the Mystique figure is, a thumbs up. It looks like how my mind's eye sees her from the animated series. She's consistent with the other animated series figures with regards to the way the colour scheme and the choice of kind of paint palette that they've used, which is working. It's got the cell shading in there. Am I the biggest fan? No, not necessarily, but again, it's consistent across the line and it's communicating that it's from the animated series. The sculpting is good, it's solid, it's got personality, it's got character. The face sculpt is telling a story. So yeah, it's got everything I'm looking for in terms of an action figure on the aesthetic front. Let's now talk a little bit about the articulation. So starting with the articulation up here in the head, it's overall, it's fairly standard Marvel Legends articulation stuff, although a little bit old school or older school articulation, and I'll talk about that a bit more in a minute. But the head here, it's the ball joint in the top of the skull and then got the hinge on the neck. Gives pretty good down, fairly decent left and right. There's a tiny bit of tilt, but as you can see, a lot of the motion, a lot of the movement here in the head is obstructed by the way her hair is falling across her shoulders and the top of the back here. Unavoidable, obviously, the hair is a big part of the character's aesthetic. It's one of the characteristics you identify with Mystique. With Raven is the striking red hair that falls down across her shoulders, but it just means that your up motion is not so great. The down's fairly good, and it also doing that thing that when you turn it sideways, because of the way the hairline kind of sits along the shoulder, she's sometimes sort of looking ever so slightly downward, which I find a little annoying when I'm trying to get some poses done, but it is what it is. In the arms, there's no butterfly joint, but we can get a pretty decent T in the hinge on the shoulders, and there's a swivel to go all the way around, which is, pretty standard. Bit of butterfly joint action would be welcome in female figures, I would say, but that's probably an engineering problem. It's a single elbow. The point of contention of mine, I've mentioned it many times in some of my recent videos, the single elbow thing is just, it's done. It's over and done with. Stop mugging us off with single elbows. We know you can do the double elbows on the female figures now, so get a grip, Hasbro. And that's really limiting some of the posability. I was trying to do some stuff with one of the accessories. Spoiler alert. Baby Nightcrawler, and the single elbow is making it difficult. There's also some stuff with the big laser rifle that comes with her that I was finding tough to get her into some positions that I wanted to get her into, mostly driven by the single elbow situation, because that's that's as far as you can get it there. Just a bit of a right angle, and then it does that thing where it slightly bends outward, so it looks uncanny, which bothers me quite a bit. But you can swivel in the elbow there, and then the wrist has got a hinge on the hands, forward and back, and obviously the standard swivel in the peg as usual. Moving down into the main body, we've obviously got this chest line here that allows for a bit of swivel across the bottom of the chest and a little bit of crunch in the bottom of the chest. There's no hip swivel at all. Again, come on Hasbro, and we're getting past this now, but no hip swivel. Moving down into the legs, we've got, it's on a hinge in the hip joint there, which has got decent forward, not so great back because of the way the arse is sculpted there, and it's doing that weird thing that the female figures sometimes do, where you can sort of see these odd gaps and sort of sits out of the leg groin area oddly, but there you go. We've then got thigh swivel at the top of the thigh, a double knee, which is, decent, no boot swivel, and then the standard rocker and ball joint on the feet to allow for some forward and back and side to side. The draping skirt piece hasn't got in the way of any of the articulation, certainly not any of the kind of poses and little display setups I've been going for. I've not found that's got in the way at all, so that's not an area of concern. That is a loose piece anyway, so you can sort of lift it a little bit, and there's some small amount of manipulation on the hip too if you do need to have a tiny little bit of a fiddle to position it to suit what you're going for. So yeah, in terms of articulation, it's pretty much what I've said on a number of other recent videos. These are obviously repaints of old sculpts. That's apparent because there are elements of the articulation that's a bit too old school for my taste now. I'm becoming increasingly accustomed to things like the G.I. Joe classified articulation, which is far superior to what we're getting from some of these repainted Marvel Legends. Single elbow, no hip swivel, no boot cut swivel. These are things that should be coming as standard now. And I don't know, there's a point here where Marvel Legends have just got to kind of draw the line in the sand and say, right, from this point forward, all are on the new book. All should be on the new book. Because, I feel sometimes when it comes to the articulation, I'm a little bit mugged off. Especially when, we'll take a look at the accessories in a minute, but when you're doing weapons like rifles and things, the double elbow just makes a world of difference when it comes to, articulating the figure with the weapons. And if you're going to give a swaddled baby, then you need to really be able to curl those arms round to hold the baba. Do you know what I mean? So the articulation is okay. It's, I'm getting used to this now, but I do feel a little bit hard done by the articulation quality when you weigh it up against the figure, the price tag on these deluxe line VHS figures. So there we go. So floating slightly down, going down a little bit, middle to down. It's not a full thumbs up at all. Accessory time now, folks, and we're going to get started with this beauty. Look at this. This is definitely a very eye-catching kind of added value element of the Mystique figure. So let me just turn my lamp around a bit more so you can see that better. There you go. Yeah, look, it's a baby Nightcrawler. Awesome. All swaddled up in the cloth with his little dum-dum. And this is a very well sculpted accessory. There's no two ways about it. There's definitely some nice texture to the swaddle cloth that she's got him in, with a bit of a wash on it. You can see there the kind of two tones in the red colour there. Awesome. Got nice neat paint app on the dummy. And then look at the facial features on that. Awesome. Got their little crags in the forehead, the nice little chubby baby cheeks, the hair sculpt. That is a tremendous piece of added value, extra kind of accessory stuff going on there. Really eye-catching, very impressed with that. I did allude to this a little earlier on. That's about the best I can get in terms of having the baby Nightcrawler sit in Mystique's arms. The hand choices are a little bit odd, and the single elbow articulation doesn't help you really kind of get her into a nice sort of baby cuddling, baby swaddling sort of position. I mean, that is somewhat narratively appropriate for Mystique. She certainly isn't the most maternal of evil mutants, you know what I mean? She did abandon him as a baba, but I don't know. It just you can probably see that. That's about the best I can get, and I've seen a lot of other people who've received theirs this week posting photos on Instagram and stuff, sort of uncomfortably placing the Nightcrawler in Mystique's hands there. So while I think it's an incredible piece of accessory, great added value piece to chuck in for some flavour and some character, and to do a little bit of storytelling with your character posing, it doesn't quite marry up to the capabilities of the character's articulation. Next, we have a couple of trigger finger hands, swappable hands for Mystique. These, you can see, have got the little touch of cell shading on them to make sure they're consistent with the rest of the figure. And these obviously make sense when I show you the laser guns that come with the figure in a moment. It's the standard pegs, so you just pop them into the peg holes in the wrists, like so. He says, there we go, and on that side there. There we go. Mystique comes with some trigger fingers, of course, because she's tooled up. We've got a couple of weapons, a few laser blasters to go in Mystique. Here's the first one, a kind of blaster rifle piece of work, laser gun. I like this. I like this a lot, actually. I like the sculpt. It's a good-looking weapon. It's nice and sort of comic book science fiction-y, so it's got a good vibe in that respect. It's kind of a bit chunky and oversized, so it's definitely got that sort of 90s X-Men, Rob Liefeld, Jim Lee style, big old laser blaster thing going on, which I'm appreciative of. The plastic mold, the blue colour plastic mold's what puts me off a little bit. I can see myself maybe getting some black paint on that in the coming weeks and months. But yeah, there's the big old laser blaster rifle. And then she also has a little pistol. Again, very consistent in terms of what you see the character use during the animated series and in the comic books, to be fair. It's very consistent with kind of the laser guns, laser pistols that Mystique uses in the comic books too. Again, it's got some nice pieces of detail on there to bring the weapon to life. It's got a nice science fiction comic booky vibe, just like the big laser blaster rifle has too, which I'm appreciative of. And yeah, it's just again the plastic, the choice of colour. I'm just much more of a fan of a plain black plastic weapon overall. That's just a personal preference thing. These are straightforward enough to get into the trigger finger hand. It's the old classic twist. Slide and twist there. The single elbows mean that there's not a great deal. This rifle, like if you want to get a looking down the sights, it's not going to happen. You can sort of do a bit of a rest on the hip action pose there, but that's about the best of what you're going to get there. Same again with the pistol, just the old slide and twist so that the trigger guard is around the trigger finger there. The pistol sits a bit better with the single elbow articulation, a little bit more range of options there. So here we are then. I've put both the weapons in her hands. I've just got Nightcrawler hanging by her feet for no reason at all, and I just kind of dumped it there. But this is the bit I wanted to talk about, kind of demonstrate what I was banging on about a bit earlier on with regards to the articulation and the weapons. So the rifle's a great example of this. You can see because of the limits, for example, of the angle of the elbow and the fact that it's a single elbow and the articulation choices that are made with the wrist hinges, you can't quite get that rifle sort of sitting tucked in under her arm, under her hip. I'm going for a sort of bursting through the door, robbing a bank, freeze kind of thing there. And do you know what I mean? It just doesn't look right. So the more natural flow of the figure's body isn't striking the type of pose that I'd be looking for to make good use of these wonderful accessories that they've included. So it's kind of a funny mixed feeling that it creates, because when I'm reviewing the figure, I'm going kind of, yeah, great added value. Look at that. I mean, that's really cute and fun and gives a bit of personality to the figure and separates it a bit from the original version that they've repainted. So very pleased and happy to see that. Loving weapons, loving swappable hands, opens up a world of possibility with the type of displays and photography that I'm using. But the overall experience of the articulation with the accessories is not giving me what I'm looking for, because that just looks a bit cack-handed and uncomfortable, doesn't it? And it's not what I want. And again, I suppose I'm being a bit spoilt, really, because I've become very accustomed to what I can get done with G.I. Joe Classified, with the range of articulation, with the butterfly joints in the shoulders and the double elbows and the more appropriate choices in the wrist hinges, means that I can get more done on that front. So I'm afraid accessories is a kind of a bit in the middle again, edging up a bit that way, I suppose, like that, because I actually think that's quite a nice little selection to add to the value, to kind of mitigate some of the pain of the extra price tag that's on these deluxe VHS figures. But when you combine them with what you can do with them in terms of the articulation, the figure lets itself down a bit, which I think is a shame. Hey folks, before we go any further, just wanted to take a moment's pause to say once again an enormous thank you to all the people out there who have recently subscribed to the channel. Honestly, my wildest dreams are coming true. I've broken 430 in the last couple of weeks. I thought I'd just be making these videos for like 100 people. It's amazing. And there's so many of you who give me great comments and get involved in conversation with me around the videos and around the reviews. Some of you are turning into regulars as well, which really warms my heart. I'm so happy to have you as part of the little MoDXtra community. So honestly, it's my honor, it's my privilege to have you coming along and joining me as I just have my man-child fun and share my reviews of the figures. So while Rogue and her surrogate mother, her stepmother, are going around on the turntable there, I wanted to take a moment to say thank you very much. I really, really super appreciate it. It's wonderful to have you with us. And let me know in the comments down below, do you reckon Rogue has clocked the pistol behind Mystique's back? And as always, it's time for a bit of figure comparison time on the MoDXtra Games and Collectibles Mystique review. Here I've got her with Pyro, fellow member of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. This is a mainline comic accurate Pyro here from the Rogue Pyro 2 set. But you can see, even with the cell shading, I think that works quite well. The Mystique is still relatively comic book accurate alongside the Pyro, so if you want to make a Brotherhood of Evil Mutants display, you can do if you want to dig out your Pyro, and if you've got your eye on the new upcoming Avalanche. Sticking with other X-Men animated series figures, here is the animated series Mr. Sinister, the other villain that's available in the range. You can definitely see the kind of bulk and size difference there in the characters, although I'll reiterate from my Mr. Sinister review, this cape is bloody annoying. It's do me head in, this cape. And here she is with the super difficult to make stand independently because her big bouffant hair is so heavy, animated series Storm. And so here we go, folks. This is how I've had Mystique on the shelf when I've just had her independently posed, when I've not been mixing her in with my other animated series figures for kind of fun display action purposes. I think you'll agree that it's a bit of a mixed bag, this one. It's the same problem I've had really with the X-Men animated series line up to this point. The reuse sculpts are frustrating. I just cannot repaint on an old book at a higher price tag because they got the VHS card box is not really good enough. But as a collector who missed a lot of these figures the first time around and wants a Mystique, wants a Jubilee, wants a Storm in his collection, and is a nostalgic lover of the animated series, I feel like I'm just being played for a bit of a mug. But I have, admittedly, had a lot of fun with the figure, despite my reservations with regards to the articulation, and that's specifically, I think, where my frustrations on the reuse older body is coming from. Despite my reservations about the articulation, once I've kind of found a little bit of a pose and I've sort of fit the figure in the display, I'm actually generally quite happy, and it is building a it's a nice little corner of the man cave, you know what I mean? It's a lovely little part of the nerd altar, and I'm not so precious that I don't mind mixing in my cel-shaded animated series figures with some of the mainline figures. So I've got my Rogue, I've got my Gambit, I've got my Pyro in the mix with the newer VHS re-releases. So it's all good. It's all good. I think I really loved the little Nightcrawler. I think that's fun. It's got a lot of character. It gives it a little bit of a storytelling element, which I'm always very appreciative of. So overall, I'm actually pretty reasonably happy. It's just the same broad general criticisms that I have of Hasbro and this particular line at this moment in time. So there we go. Well, there we are then, folks. That brings me to the end of my review. It is my firmest hope that if you've been thinking about picking up a Marvel Legends X-Men animated series VHS line Mystique figure, boom, mastered it. And you're on the fence, then I've given you some thoughts that will help you make up your mind as to whether this is the figure for you. If you're not already subscribed, then please do take a moment to subscribe to the channel. And if you've enjoyed the video today, then give us a thumbs up. It's very much appreciated. It takes you just a second, but it means ever so much to me. It just makes my day when I see those like counters going up, because it tells me I'm going in the right direction and people are enjoying what they're seeing. And if you enjoy action figure content, comic book content, trading card content, board game content, basically anything, if you're a big old adult child nerd like me, then this is possibly the channel for you. So I've been Chris, this is MoDXtra Games and Collectibles. I hope you have a tremendous day, and I'll see you again soon.